There are concerns that progress against child labour have stalled and that the current trend sustained development goals, a target of 8.7, will be missed as the 5th Global Conference on the Elimination of Child Labour works towards the Durban Call to Action, which will be adopted at the end of the conference. Child labour in Africa still remains a great concern. Let's now cross to my colleague Liabo Setho, who has more for us. Over to you, Liabo.
Hi, Nampu. Yes, the child labour in Africa still remains a concern indeed. We've been having different statistics from different countries, and I thought today would be prudent, to invite a representative from Kenya who works with children and youth, just to get an update or an understanding on how they're dealing with it in East Africa, in Kenya. From what we know, 8.5% of children are involved in child labour, and that's around 1.3 million. That's obviously a lot higher than what we are seeing here in South Africa. But of course, still, it's the same, that it is a concern. Today's discussions, Nompu, have been centered a lot around education and the role that education can play in order to help eliminate child labour. I've invited Joyce Atieno Nyakundi. She is a coordinator for welfare of children and youth in Kenya. She's also an educator. So she's been telling me off camera about the role that teachers can play, because remember, when kids are in school, the teachers are able to identify if a child is in distress or is susceptible to child labouring. And she has been sitting in a couple of panels where these discussions have been had. She joins me right now. Joyce, thank you so much and welcome to SABC News. Firstly, tell me about this picture in Kenya. I was telling my colleague and our viewers at home about how 8.5%, according to official data in Kenya, which is around 1.3 million children. That is quite a lot.
Yes. The numbers are quite worrying. That's why we had to actually come for the 5th Global Conference. When you look at even the statistics of the world, 160 million children are susceptible to child labor. So these numbers are quite worrying. And when you look at the trends, they have been increasing. So it brings us to a position where we need to pause and ask possible questions. Why is it that we have been having these global conferences and the numbers seem to be going up? And of course, the COVID situation worsened the situation, and many children are now home. How
bad is it in Kenya, especially post, well, I can't say post, but you know that COVID has really kind of subsided and things are not as bad as they were 2 years ago. How bad has the pandemic made things?
Yes, the situation is a little still worrying when you look at the trends, because very many children during the COVID, the children were at home.
Yes.
But when you look at the economic crisis that the COVID pandemic caused, many parents were not able to go to work. Parents were not able to work. Some of them were laid off from their places of work. So what did that mean to the children? So most of the children were out helping their parents to get an income for the families.
That is why when you read some of the articles, on this, there are some groups that say, in fact, child labor may not be so bad because it helps with the income of the family, which of course is not right, is in a sense where you're exploiting the child's time and freedom. You are an educator, and you know the kind of role that you as teachers can play in helping to eliminate. Take us through what can be done.
Yeah, we are saying the children have a right to play. Children have a right to work in a safe environment. So we are saying an end to child labor may not necessarily be possible, but we are saying, can we be able to create an environment where this particular child feels safe, feels secure, and their rights are not violated? So basically, we are also running a project, and we began by the campaign, It's Time to Talk. Time to talk, meaning the children can be able to talk about their experiences. What are their experiences when they're working, including the work that they do at home? So we need to define, there's a very thin line between child labor and child work. So those clear definitions must be made, and the children must also be aware.
And I can imagine we also need to empower children in the sense that they need to be able to identify that I'm not supposed to be doing this job. This is not my job, and be able to speak up to somebody because sometimes they themselves are not empowered to know enough that what they're doing is not necessarily what they should be doing, correct?
Exactly. And that means we need to empower our communities. We began by looking at the children experiences, telling them it's time to talk about the experiences that you're feeling in the work environment. Then we are now in the second phase of saying dialogue works. Let's engage our communities so that they are empowered to know that this is exactly what children must do. If children must work, then they must work in safe spaces, safe environment, so that they are able to grow well psychologically.
Right. Joyce Atieno Nyagudi is the coordinator for welfare of children and youth in Kenya. She's also a teacher by profession, and she's been giving us an insight on the kind of conversations they've been having in some of the panels that she's been sitting on, as well as the picture, the country picture of Kenya, which we understand that 8.5% of children are involved in child labor, which translates to around 1.3 million children. The word right now is that we may miss these SDG 8.7 targets of eliminating, completely eradicating child labor by 2030. What will we be doing before then? Hopefully by the end of this conference, when that call to action, the Durban call to action is drafted, the answers will be contained there about what happens in the interim. That's all for this hour. Please do stay with us, because in the next hour we get to speak to small businesses that are exhibiting here at the Nkosi Chief Albert Luthuli International Convention Center. And it's back to you in Studio Nompu.